All right. Thank you both for agreeing to be our panelists in this event. Let me share my screen quickly to introduce you. So our speakers are Dr. Camilo Moreno and Dr. Gemilza Gomez. We are very proud of them because they are alumni of the OSC program. And let me start by introducing Dr. Camilo. Dr. Camilo is a senior optical engineer from ASML, Connecticut. And then Dr. Gemilza Gomez, who is an X-ray quality solutions manager from ZEISS Industrial Quality Solutions from Wixom, Michigan. So before we start, let me ask you if you could please, we want to get to know you better. And some students here don't know you at all. And some of them already know you. You were here before. I think would you mind getting a little bit closer so that they can see you? Thank you, Tim. And so if you could please introduce yourselves, maybe share the year you graduated, the name of your supervisor, maybe like a few words about your research, like what were you working on, basically, a very simple statement. And then perhaps maybe your favorite memory from the time you were a graduate student at UNC Charlotte. So let's start from there. Let's start with Herminzo.
Okay. And so I was at the University of North Carolina from 2012 to 2014 on campus. I still was a student of UNCC till when I graduated, which was 2018. But what happened was I left campus to take an internship and then a full-time job. So I finished my dissertation while I was working. My work was on X-ray computer tomography. I was working at the building that is in front of the optical building, which is mechanical. I work for Stuart Smith on X-ray computer tomography metrology. So how to use X-ray CT. CT is computer tomography for dimensional metrology. And that's where I learned a lot about metrology. And that was the topic of my dissertation. I do like to mention that I came to UNCC through Dr. Borman because I was first at Orlando, Florida, at Creole. So I started my PhD there, but then during the second year, I decided to move to University of North Carolina. I got a master there in order to just move after Dr. Borman moved to take the chair of the department. So that's how I ended up in UNCC, and then the rest is history after that. Maybe a favorite memory that I have, which is it's a little bit pertinent to what we're talking today, which is to this panel. So it's that at UNCC, that's where I first learned to drive. And when I say I learned to drive, I literally saying to drive a car. So where I grow up, I didn't have a car. I never owned a car. And when I did my bachelor, I live in a very big city where you can find public transportation everywhere. Plus, I was a poor student, couldn't own a car. And I moved to the States, and then I quickly realized that you need to learn to drive because public transportation is not as efficient. So I start saving from a little bit from my assistantship back in Florida, and when I was at the University of Carolina, I actually moved the first semester being a student from University of Florida. And at the end of that semester, I decided, okay, I need to buy a car, but I didn't know how to drive, so I needed learn to drive. Anyways, I got the, I negotiated the car, and it turns out that at the same time, I got an interview to do an internship at SAIS. And what happened was there was a project from SAIS in which they wanted to send a machine, a computer tomography system to UNCC, so they needed someone to train it. And they interviewed a couple of candidates. I was one of them. The internship was in Michigan. And curiously enough, during that interview, the person that was interviewing asked me, "Do you own a car?" And I still didn't have the car, but I had negotiated. So I say, my gut feeling told me, say yes. And I say, yes, I own a car. And that question was important because when you come here, you realize that to go to sites from, let's say, the near city, which is Ann Arbor, the companies in the countryside, you actually need a car. You need a car to drive at least half an hour or maybe 15 minutes, depending where you're living. So that was good that I had the instinct to answer correctly, and I wasn't lying. I had a car already negotiated, but I didn't know how to drive. So I had to learn how to drive that car. The question was not, do you know how to drive a car? The question was, do you have a car? So it's a nice memory I have, pertinent for today, because of I got the internship at the end, not just because I had a car. There were other questions, but that was an important question, but because the interviewer was looking, among all other things, my intellectual ability, he was looking on making sure that I have a way of transportation.
Thank you for sharing that. Camilo, how about you?
Sure. So I did my master's and PhD in the optical science program at UNCC. I started in 2016 and I graduated on 2020. And I work under the supervision of Dr. Borman. We investigated infrared antennas and how to come up with impedance matching techniques in order to improve their performance. So that was my mainly my dissertation project. It was a very exciting project that I really liked because it spanned from simulation, look at the theory, modeling tools toward and use that in order to guide the design of the antennas. And that gave me an opportunity to actually go to the clean room over there at Agri Hall, fabricate my own antennas, and then use the tool that Dr. Borman has in his lab in order to actually test the antennas and see if what I designed, what I was expecting based on theory and simulation was actually true. So it spanned like the whole different disciplines or different like ways to approach a problem. So it was like very, very good experience for me in order to get a lot of skills, a lot of experience that then it will be very helpful for my career. And this is a good segue in order to answer the second question about like the favorite experience at UNCC, in which it was, I think it was like October, September 2020. So it was like still the pandemic. The access to Greek was a little bit restricted. So not many people will be able to like go to labs and do research. But I was lucky to have access to the lab. And I was actually testing in the lab the antennas that I fabricated. And the favorite memory, I think, was like at night, like 8 p.m. It was late, and I was like tired because all the experiments that I planned didn't work before. Until that night, I was able to see the results that I was expecting to see that will enable me pretty much to graduate. So it was like very rewarding to finally see all the hard work I put like in the simulations, in the fabrication, and in the testing to realize and actually see the physics like in front of your eyes, the optics in front of your eyes. So that was a very, very rewarding experience, and that I still remember for sure. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so let me ask the next question, and then I'm going to open the floor in case you want to ask anything else. The first question, I would say maybe the question. How did you transition from being an international student to securing positions, the positions that you have right now? In your case, Camilo, as a senior optical engineer, do you want to start with this question, please? How was your transition like?
Who is starting? Camilo?
Let's start with Camilo now so that we can change the order.
Yeah.
It's going to be reversed in order.
Sure. So since the question is specific towards international student case, which is my case, I would say you have to navigate through the application process and be aware of different, I would say, like regulations that are in place for different kind of positions, depending on the work that the company does and the research if they do. That might pose some restrictions. For example, if they are working on defense, that kind of stuff. So you, as an international student that you don't have a green card, then those kind of positions will be, yeah, you wouldn't be able to apply to them. So you have to be aware of that and focus your job search towards the positions that do not require that. And there are plenty of them out there that they just work in the private sector and they don't have to do anything with defense. So be aware of that is key for your search. And yeah, that's pretty much the most important thing that you have to be aware of. Also be confident about yourself that yes, you are an international student, and that's very powerful because you bring your background, you bring diversity to the workplace or the company that wants to hire you, and you bring new way to think, new way to solve problems that employers really, really value. So yeah, I would say use that as your like the card that you bring towards the interview or the person that is interviewing you. And that really, really helps you in order to advance in your career.
Thanks, Camilo. How about you, Hamid?
So the story with me is that I started right away with practical knowledge through the affiliates program, the Center for Precision Metrology. So I started doing projects related to industry and specifically to X-ray computer tomography. So I let myself be known in the industry rather quickly. In fact, I had an internship with SAIS, that first one, which of course I had to take that car that I learned to drive and then take it to the highway and move to University of North Carolina to Michigan and be here, and then experience a kind of a real industry environment with people at the company, dealing with real problems. I mean, my day-to-day was more learning the system, but I got to relate to people. Then I after I got that internship, I went back to University of North Carolina and I collected data. But even before I got to graduate, like 2 years in after I finished my classes, and in fact, in my case it was a little faster because I already had a lot of classes that I transferred from University of Central Florida, but I still had to take a couple and then take the qualifier. Once I passed the qualifier, I focused on taking data for my dissertation, and I came to SAIS a second time for a longer internship, and that internship was for 1 year, and I was still on visa, student visa. It's the regulations say that, of course, if you work, then you cannot receive funding from university. So like the research system is not valid anymore. So I needed to subsist with the funds from my job. Then I got contact after I finished my second internship. That was my third year if I start counting from zero. So I was to around my fourth year, and I was seriously thinking on finding a job, and I was waiting if SAIS would hire me after that internship. But they kind of didn't move really into creating something for me. And maybe they took me for granted at that point. Maybe they were waiting for me to end the internship. But I had an account in LinkedIn, and from the knowledge that I was building, which was X-ray computer tomography, it seems it was a field where not many people were at the time, and probably right now, not many people know about this for industry. In medical, there are lots of people on that, but not in industry. And then I got contact by through LinkedIn directly by some other competitor from SAIS that wanted to hire a person, and they become interested in my background. That was Nikon, so I went to work for them, and I worked full time for them, and for 4 years. And most recently, SAIS contacted me again about 4 years ago, and they wanted to give me now a position which will imply a little bit of a move up in terms of position. Now I will become a solutions manager or a product manager. There are many definitions. And then I decided to come back. And now regarding everyone's situation is different, but you just be aware that when you finish school, if my path might have been a little bit different, but once you finish school, you have the option to ask for a practical training kind of visa, and I think Camilo did that at some point. You get 1 or 2 years granted, so you can stay in the country even after you graduate to get practical knowledge, get a job into industry or so, or even into academia. It applies for whatever kind of a job. You can find a job after that with that kind of visa. And as Camilo said, you might have limitations into certain fields, but once you get, if you're good at what you do, and if the companies really want you, and they have the capabilities, especially big companies, they will be willing to sponsor you through a green card. So you can apply for your green card, and that is something you need to consider well when you're looking for jobs or where to go. Smaller companies are more difficult or don't have the resources to help you with that, or startup companies also be aware of that. Startup companies can promise you a lot, but I don't know at the end if they can deliver. Big companies, more established companies, they certainly, if they like your background and they think you add value, they will help you with the process of getting your green card.
Can you please repeat the name of that? You mentioned a practical extension. What was the name? Say that again.
Practical training. Camilo, can you comment about that? I think you went through
Sure.
it.
Sure, there's actually two kind of ways to get like work authorization. One is CPT. I don't recall his practical training something, but that's kind of like temporal before you finish your studies, your degree. So that's very useful for you if you want to do internships. So I did a couple of internships through that option. You can go to the ISSO website and also ask the people in there. They will give you more information how's the process work and the paperwork, but pretty much you just need like an offer from company offering you an internship, and then the whole process starts. You need authorization of your advisor, of course, so everyone is on the same page, of course, and you can use leave like for the summer, for example, to do the internship. And once you finish, there's the OPT, optional practical training, in which you get to apply what you learn during your degree in the actual real job market, right? In the real world. That work authorization last 1 year, but for STEM majors, which optical science is one of them, you get an extension of 2 extra years. So at the end, you get 3 years in which you can work in industry with a job offer. Of course, there's a different kind of regulations that you have to be aware of, but it's just a matter of you sitting down, reading and getting familiar with the laws and the different procedures, and it's totally doable. And as Herminso said, it's very important that during that time, that 1 year plus 2 years, you secure a position in a company that will align with you in order to sponsor you beyond that time. So that's something you have to be aware of and be bring on in the actual interviewing process, so everyone is on the same page. So yeah, that's an important aspect to consider in the job application process. Yep.
Thank you, Camilo. So let me, I have like 11 questions, but I want to make sure your questions are answered. So if you have a question, just let me know, raise up your hand and you can come over here and speak at the microphone. If anybody wants to ask a question, otherwise I can keep going. Do you want to come over here so they can see you?
Hey guys. Yeah, thanks for all this information. I just wanted to follow up what was just said. Well, first question I had is wait, how do you say Herminso? Okay, yeah, for Herminso or Dr. Gomez. Yeah, because I didn't quite understand how the timeline worked out for you. I wanted to just double check, because you said you went for internships and then you were out of campus for something like 4 years. Were you working on your PhD while doing that internship, or did you quit the PhD and then came back, or how did that work?
Yeah, so let me try to remember. So I went out for my first internship at SAIS in 2014. That was my third year, and I finished that, and then I started a full-time job with Nikon. So what I did is that I think that first year I still kept enrolled at the University of North Carolina as just enroll one credit, the minimum. I enrolled one credit and started like kind of finishing my collection of data at SAIS. Then when I started my job, I think I took a leave of absence for 1 year, which is allowed. You're allowed to leave university for any reasons, medical or any other reasons.
I thought if you do that, you lose your student status. Like you have to leave the country if you're not enrolled in 9 credit hours, isn't it?
Yes, if you don't have any other support. So in my case, I have some family link here in the States that allow me to stay with a green card.
Ah, you had a green card. Yeah, okay.
I got a green card at that point. I didn't have it
Okay.
when I was at UNC. I got a green card, I think in 2014 or so.
Yeah, that
yeah.
answers many of my questions.
Yeah.
I was going to ask them
Yeah.
maybe.
And then I just after I returned from my leave of absence, I continue enrolling the minimum credits because the university doesn't allow you to be out for so long.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, and
And-
if you have a green card, yeah, then you
Yeah.
can do it.
And I
Because you-
have
yeah.
a full-time job, so then I have to do two things: do a full-time job and then write my dissertation on my free time. So yes, it took me till 2018 to come back and defend my dissertation.
In that case, that's still the same question.
Okay.
That's still the same question, but for Camilo this time. So how do you find internships as in well, international students? Because most of them, from what I've seen, require, either citizenship or something like that. I don't know if it's a legal issue or what, but in order to get paid even.
No,
they
that's not necessarily. I got my first internship when I got in 2012, and I was an international student.
Were
so-
those internships paid or did they cover tuition? How did that work with the university, with the funding?
Oh, it's a summer internship, so you're not paying university. You're not a student.
Okay. Is the internship paying you? Because if you're
Correct.
in
Yes.
university in summer, then you're not getting paid by the university as well.
Yeah.
So it is possible to find something.
It is, and Camilo did it twice, I
Okay,
think.
then,
Yes.
yeah, final thing, and that's gonna help everyone. Do you guys have any hints on where we should look for such internships? If there's anything more than just, I don't know, LinkedIn or something that we all kind of know, maybe there's something.
Yeah,
You could look.
So okay, yeah, Camilo, go ahead. How did you find your internships?
Sure. Yeah, I can share the methods that work for me. So the first internship that I found was at HP Hewlett Packard, and I actually found it through the newsletter that the University of Arizona, the optics department over there sends. So you can go to their website and sign up to their newsletter. Most of the information is like regarding events happening in the University of Arizona, but at the end, when you scroll to the end of the newsletter, they post like job openings with the partners that University of Arizona have in the industry. So I read the job openings at that time, and there was internship opening for HP. So I just clicked the link, I submitted like my information, went through the interview, And yeah, I got the offer, and it was a paid internship. And as I said, for F1 students, there's this option for you to use this CPT, I believe it's like curricular practical training, I believe, in which during the summer, since you are not taking classes, you are allowed to work in the industry. It has to be, of course, position related with the field that you're working, that you're studying. So that's something that you have to take into account. And yeah, it's totally possible. Then you go through the whole HR process, and yeah, you get a new I-20 for that CPT, special CPT, and work authorization and all that. And that was the first internship that I got. The second internship was the following year. It was 2019. Again, I was browsing job postings, and in this time I used Indeed, I believe, and I saw a job internship opening for in Facebook, and I thought I was a good fit following like the description of the position. And I again sent my resume, all my information. I went through the whole internship process, and then they made the offer. And again, it was the same. It was over a summer. It was 3-ish months from May to August or something like that. The same process. So I was already familiar with that. So yeah, it's possible.
Thanks. Anybody else wants to ask another question besides Art? You're gonna come over here. The newsletter that you mentioned, was it from Arizona, right? You said something from the University of Arizona?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can send.
That would be wonderful, please.
Sure. Yeah, I can send you the link. Maybe to you, Dr. Porras, and then you can
Yeah.
distribute to the
And I think
students.
it's also Optica has like a jobs option, Optica, and we can actually build up different resources, or we can.
Yeah, there are a lot of resources online that post jobs. Any online resource like SPIE, or, Optica, or universities post jobs, and internships are considered job. So those are post there too. The other thing that you can do is upload your resume. They call it resume in the States. In some countries call it CV, but you have to you have to adapt to what they use here. They use a resume, which is a single page, or at the most two. It has to be very brief, summarize what your experience is, and focus on experience and knowledge in one page. You can upload that on certain companies. There are certain companies that even don't have job postings, but you can just openly upload your resume, and they will call you when they have an opening, especially for an internship, or for a job even. I remember I did that at Intel, and I got a call at some point. I was at the university taking classes and collecting some of my data, and they called me, and I rejected that one because I already had kind of a plan. I had my plan to come back to an internship at SAIS the second time. In addition to that, you can also get internships through networking with the UNCC affiliates. There are several programs of UNCC affiliates. The one I was associated with was from the Center for Precision Metrology. Every semester, so the affiliates come. If you go to the mechanical building, at the entrance where the affiliates, where the CPM or Center for Precision Metrology is, there is a list of the affiliates. I think there are more than 10 or 12 companies. And those companies are companies that fund research at the university, and they do meetings where you get to expose your project and you get to know these people, and at the end you get to have socialization, and those people might also offer you an internship. That's how I got my first internship with SITE. The SITE was part of the affiliates program at the Center for Precision Metrology, which though is in mechanical, we have also projects from optics department, and that's why how I built my network for my second internship. The first one was just someone sent an email to physics, and they advised a couple of candidates. That's how I interviewed. But for the second one, they already knew me. The other places where you can find internships is in conferences. You go to the SPIE or the Optica conferences. There are places for jobs, and part of those jobs might be internships.
Thanks, Hermin. So we have another question.
Hi, Erminso and Camilo. My name is Anna. I'm a second year student. I wanted to ask you, when would you recommend us to start looking for internships and jobs? And the second question that I have is, how did you convince your advisors to let you get 2 internships? Because as you know, a lot of research is done during the summer. So maybe 1, that's doable, but 2, it seems a little bit too much.
Yeah, I let Camilo
I
answer.
should say Anna is my PhD student, so she just convinced me.
Camilo answered that question first.
Sure, sure. So how to balance that? Yeah, it mainly depends on your relationship with your advisor. So you want to be a good student, so you will get that chance, right? And also you have to have clear communication with your advisor and be aligned on the future for your career. So, for example, if you want to go into industry, you know that's where you want to get your career to. It's very valuable for you to get experience before you graduate in the industry. That will make your profile, your resume stand out from other people, other applicants. So if you have had that conversation with your advisor, of course, will support you for your development in your career. So yeah, that support will come having that you are a good student, right? So you want to keep up with your research. You want to do this internship during the summer, which won't impact that much your research, the papers, the projects that you are working on. Of course, if needed, you are not like, okay, I'm gonna forget and everything during this summer. No, I had to like still do some work, analyzing data, writing, and so on during the internship in order to keep up. Because once you finish the internship, you have to continue your research, your thesis, your projects, and so on. So it's kind of a balance of those 2 things, that you want to build your resume towards your goals in your career, but also you want to graduate, right? Because yeah, you can take 2, 3, how many internships you want, but if that's gonna impact your time in a school, yeah, that's probably not a good idea. So it's a balance that you have to have on your own time, and also balance that you have to and a conversation that you have to have with your advisor and have clear terms in that.
And I will say the best situation will be if you can get an internship that is fully aligned with your dissertation topic, which was my case. The dissertation I did was with data collected in a size machine in a size system, computer tomography system that I was operating at UNCC. And coming to the internship, the first one was for training on that system. And the second one, after 2 years, was to complete the collection of data for my dissertation because the system was taken off from the UNCC. The system was on loan for 2 years, and the university couldn't purchase that equipment, was quite expensive, and the company couldn't let the system sit there for any longer. So they took it back. And then I moved with the machine to finish collecting my data. Of course, they needed to justify that move. The company couldn't just have me there collecting data for free. I had to do something for them. And that was my internship. I had to work in a contract inspection lab where I would do measure parts for customers. But I had access to their equipment. I could stay late or use my free time or leave my samples scanning overnight. So I was doing both, collecting data and doing some job for the company. But it was fully aligned. So there was no question about where are you going? Why are you going away from UNCC? Because it was aligned to the dissertation topic.
Thanks, Ernesto and Camilo. Let me ask this question, and if anybody wants to, just raise up your hand, please, at any moment. Can you describe, please, let me start with Camilo, because now we're just switching now, so to Camilo, to Camilo. I think I did wrong, but can you please describe any hurdles you encountered during your job application and interview process as international student, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I would say rejections. Like you have to be aware and remember that you are not gonna get like every job that you apply to. There's gonna be a lot of rejections for sure, and you have to remember that you have gotten this far because you have talent, you have the skills, you are a good researcher, you are a good applicant, but sometimes the job position is just not for you either. The team just looking for a specific profile that is not you, and that's fine. You just have to keep looking and just don't put yourself down just because rejection. So yeah, it's not easy, but yeah, you just have to remember that you are a very talented person, a very good researcher, and keep that in mind in every single interview that you have.
Thanks, Camilo. Your advisor, who happened to be my chair, gave me this wise advice. Just know that 9 out of 10 are going to be rejected. So you better get on your 9 rejections as soon as possible. How
Yep.
would you, Herminso? What would you share?
Don't take it personal. I think the major hurdle that you might encounter during this process is that you have been in academia or you've been studying for way too long, and we have no experience interviewing and negotiating. Like we come out to the world with this focus on research and academia, but we have no practical knowledge of what are the skills that you need to interview or negotiate experience. And it's a mental game because you have a small window of time where someone in the other side is trying to get acquainted to you and determine if you're a good fit or not. And you are in the same situation. You're trying to impress them or to demonstrate them that you're the candidate that they should hire. And it becomes this mental game because there is people from human resources. They have lots of experience interviewing people. They have interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people in their timeline. So they know how to do the questions to you or trick you to make sure to eliminate you quickly or something like that. So my advice is you have to read, you have to talk to people that has gone through this process and practice. You practice before the interview, practice with your friend, practice with your partner, and be ready for tricky questions. There are situations in which they are fine, they don't ask, but there are situations in which they ask tricky questions. One of the most common tricky question is they ask you, okay, tell me what's your greatest weakness, and there you are. How do you reply to that? And I mean, if you say your weakness, then that might turn against you. If you say, I don't know, I'm a procrastinator or something like that, that's probably not a good answer. And then you read books and stuff, and they say, okay, well, the best situation is you have to answer something that, despite being a weakness, turns into a positive. Let's say, for example, that you are a perfectionist. So you stay late doing your job because you're too perfectionist and you want to finish everything on time and all of that. I just found that question a little bit funny. I thought for a while, I haven't, for the jobs that I got, I didn't go through a lot of tricky questions, but I have had other interviews that I even do just for practice. Even if I'm not looking for another job, I put myself out there just to practice. Even if you're not looking for a job, you can do this as an exercise. And I found my perfect answer when they asked me that, and I did once to one person, and it was funny to see the reaction. They asked me, okay, so what's your greatest weakness? And I say, my greatest weakness is my accent, because I'm not a first language speaker of English. So yeah, my accent is my greatest weakness because I'm never gonna be speaking like a local. And I think I speak well, but there might be some people that don't understand my accent at first, or might need to listen a little more twice. And this person felt a little bit embarrassed when they hear my answer, like, oh, no, everybody has an accent. Yeah, no worry, that's not a weakness. To me, that was the best answer I could find, that without like falling into a tricky situation.
Genius. Okay, so let me ask the next one, unless somebody wants to ask anything. No, so let me ask you this question. What specific skills or knowledge you gained during your graduate program that have been the most valuable in your current job? Permiso, let's go now for Permiso.
Can you say it again, please?
What specific skills or knowledge that you gained during your graduate program have been the most valuable in your career? Could you actually, I want to make it a little bit harder. Could you pick if 3 words?
Yeah.
Like this and this and this?
No, that's fine. So the most, the best skills that I could gain from my grad school is practical knowledge. So I gain experience in the lab, gain experience in something that have relevance in the industry, but especially do cross collaboration teams and do something that is practical. Now that's one, but I think the other one that is great is communication. So learn how to talk to people, how to expose your work, expose yourself to conferences, and let your work speak for you.
And the last one? So they were hands-on experience, communication skills, and
Okay, let me summarize. Build practical lab experience, because for industry, that's what is really important. So practicality. And the second one is to speak about what you do in layman terms. So learn to communicate well. And this is something that can be hard sometimes because we are used to a small circle and we talk to our peers, we talk to experts, and we get into all the technicalities. But sometimes you need to be very succinct and summarize what you do in a couple of minutes. You might be talking to someone that has no idea what your field is, but that's the person that is going to hire you. So you need to learn how to explain that very quickly in a short period of time.
all right, thanks. How about you, Camille?
Sure. I will highlight communication as well, but I will twist it with collaboration. So in industry, chances are that you are going to be working with people with different background than it's not going to be physics, it's not going to be optics, it's probably going to be mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, software development. They have no idea of optics or physics, or maybe they may have just basic understanding. So you have to be very knowledgeable of the way you communicate your ideas, so it's easy to understand for them, and also to upper management, because at the end those are the ones that make the decisions, either for the project, either for the company, for your salary, and so on. So you have to be very clever on how to communicate that, and you get that with just practice communication with people outside your field. So even at the university, you can communicate your ideas with people from other departments and so on, just for yourself to start building that skill that is going to be very valuable in your job. Another one that I thought is collaboration in that regard, that you are not going to be working by yourself in academia, or in the PhD, you have your project and you are the only one that is going to work on that project, or at least that was my experience. I was doing the measurements, I was doing the simulations, I was doing everything. So it was just up to me, the work. But in industry, you have to collaborate with a lot of people, get their knowledge, share your knowledge with them in order to make things done. So you have to be very open to collaborate and very effective in collaboration in order to be successful at that. And that's something that you just have to learn on the go. So be mindful of that you need to maybe adapt yourself if you are not doing that right now. And the third one that I would say is that know very well your fundamentals. So by that, I mean that you need to know the fundamentals that you learned through school, your education, the PhD, of different maybe subfields of optics, physics, because you are not going to be an expert in all of them. But if you know the fundamentals and you know where to look for their information, literature, you do your research, that's gonna help you jump or adapt better to different projects, different job situations, because if you have your fundamentals very clear, it's gonna be very easy for you to merge or start building up the knowledge in the specific application that the project or the company is working on your fundamentals. So if you have like strong basis on that, it's gonna be very easy for you to get knowledge, start building your knowledge in the specific application and be successful in the position.
Thanks, Camilo. If you have a few more minutes, I just would like to use this time to ask the panelists if you want to share something that we haven't asked you, anything that you consider that would be useful for the students here. So let's go with Camilo. Can we ask you first? Is there anything that we haven't asked you that you would like to share with us, with the students, with the attendees?
Yeah, and it's fine if we go a little, or at least from me, if we go a little over, it's fine. I don't have time pressure at this point. There was a salary negotiation. We haven't talked about salary negotiation, and that's very important too. I kind of mentioned it a little bit in negotiation in my previous question, but we didn't go into specifics. And salary is an important part of when you get a job. And the first I would say is try to avoid the pressure from recruiters, because they try to overload you with questions. And one of those questions is, okay, what's your salary expectation? And if you haven't been in your market and you haven't done your research, which you should know how much is the value, or how much at least our range, still don't give up that number. When you study negotiation strategies, it says that the person that gives the figure first is in the losing end, and that's because there can be situations you might give a number that is lower than the actual salary they will pay you, and they go from there. They pay you less. So avoid the money conversation. Leave it for last. Leave it for last. You first need to figure out a lot of other situations. So this is a right fit. What's the culture of the company? What is the job description? And at some point you cannot avoid anymore. Then you get into salary negotiation, and then you can ask them. You ask them to give that number first. So okay, well, what's the salary you have? Like, what's the range? And then you can negotiate from there. Have in mind that even if they are the first to give you a figure, that might not be set in stone. Companies know this, at least in the United States. In the United States, people negotiate their salaries, so they have room. The salary they give you is probably not the highest that they have, because they are expecting you to counter negotiate, like counter offer. So there is always room to negotiate. You can get from that initial offer, you can get maybe 5,000 or 10,000 more. It depends on what you're looking for. So be aware of that, and talk to your peers. If you get an offer, call to a friend and say, what do you think about this? Or if you don't have like friends with experience, call your advisors. They know, and they can tell you if the offer is a good one or not. I think the first time I started getting job offers, I even showed it to Professor Borman, and he said, "Oh yeah, this is a good offer."
Thanks. How about you, Camilo? Is there anything else that you would like to share that we haven't asked you?
I would say two things. So be prepared for the interviews. Do your research with the company that you're interviewing to. Look through their webpage, what are the technology that they are working on, like the fundamentals they are working on, because chances are that they are gonna ask you about, hey, what do you know about such and such company? And it's good for you to be prepared for that. Also practice, as Erminzo said, questions, answering questions for interviews. And also when you apply to job position, try to tailor your resume for the position that you are applying. So look through the job description, the skills that they're list in the description, and tailor your resume in order to make it look good for the person that is gonna review the resume. Or chances are that nowadays it's gonna be an algorithm, so you have to be aware. You want your resume to pass that filter. So yeah, make sure you tailor your resume for each position that you want to apply, so you increase your chances in order to get an interview. Once you get an interview, yeah, you put your best foot in order to make a good impression.
Okay, so let me try to summarize what we said. So from learning how to drive, celebrating eureka moments, we should know that even though you might not have your green card, there are limited options, but still several options, right? And you can find many opportunities, for example, in the website that you just sent us, in conferences and other websites. There are possibilities like the practical training that you can apply for. For STEM, we are very happy that we have a 3 years opportunity in terms of the time that you can work for somebody to show that you can apply what you have learned during the PhD. When you go to the industry, you may face rejections, and you also, which it's okay because that's how life happens, but you also need to learn some negotiation skills to be able to raise your salary as much as possible. And as Herminso said, I like that. You better ask them how much they're willing to pay for your salary beforehand. I mean, before you said what your limit is. And then make sure that during your PhD, you get the time to get some hands-on experiences, practical experience. You learn how to communicate for non-experts so that you can also collaborate with others. That will help you not only for your hiring process, but also to work with collaborators in your work. And one very big contribution from Herminso is really learn about how to negotiate your salary. I think that was a big one from you. And from Camilo, make sure that your resume is tailored for each specific job applications that you are submitting. I try my best to summarize everything. I hope I managed, but of course there was a lot more said that I couldn't say. And so I would like to thank everybody, especially the panelists, Dr. Gomez for his time, and also Dr. Camino for his time and willingness to share your experience with our grad students. And this is recorded, so let me stop the recording now, but you can now clap if you want to.